Welcome all, Dax here. I've been playing The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD for about a month, and I wanted to share with you my thoughts and opinions after rolling credits. This game has been hard for me to articulate my thoughts and opinions into words, but hopefully I get my message across with this video. I overall have mixed feelings about my time playing Skyward Sword, with some high highs and low lows. This is my first time playing Skyward Sword on any console, so my review will be centered around my first and only time playing this title for the Nintendo Switch. I will be taking into consideration the original hardware limitations of the Wii, but I also will be focusing on how it could have improved. With some of that context out of the way, let's get into it. The story of Skyward Sword is simple and sweet. Link's adventure is presented as a classic hero's journey where he is tasked with saving his best friend and crush, Zelda. This relationship serves as the driving force of the plot, which is one of the story's biggest strengths considering how organic and natural the two's chemistry is presented. In classic Nintendo fashion, there is a damsel in distress needing saving, and although I feel that in this specific instance the trope is done as well as it can be, I do wish Nintendo would get more creative with the setup and stories of one of their most important franchises. This critique may seem misplaced considering that I'm referring to a 10-year-old game, but I maintain my criticism due to the most recent title, Breath of the Wild, also taking a similar approach. Nothing about Skyward Sword's story is particularly bad, but it is far from a masterpiece of storytelling due to its borderline generic formula. I enjoyed the story that was there, but feel they should have taken less of a linear approach if they were so committed to telling the story they told. In my opinion, if a game forces you to engage in a linear path driven by story, then the story told should be an amazing one. I was entertained by the story told, but I felt like it wasn't Nintendo's finest work. I think on a presentation level, Skyward Sword does a great job of painting its universe through strong art direction. I think much of the visuals have been cleaned up well from the original Wii release. Part of this is attributed to the original art design attempting to create painting-like visuals mixed in with cartoon characters, which have mostly aged rather well. As I mentioned in my first impressions video, I'm not a big fan of the over-the-top character designs, being kind of an eyesore for me, but I'll leave that for you to decide. More importantly, each sub-location you will be working your way through looks great, with vibrant colors and unique visual concepts that allow for your imagination to wander. The music that accompanies your journey does a great job of encapsulating each location's ambience. Many of the sound effects are iconic to the point where many players new to Zelda will recognize them instantly. My only complaint would have to be the low health indicator that remains annoyingly present until you regain some of those missing hearts. In those situations, I usually chose to turn off the sound completely over having to listen to that portable car alarm. But as a whole, the visual and audio presentation helps create the atmosphere of the world you visit as a player. As far as world building goes, I will start off by saying that I fell in love with the locations on a creative level. Skyward Sword did capture my imagination throughout my entire playtime, ranging from forests to volcanoes to underwater civilizations, to even an open sea in the middle of the desert. Easily one of the game's greatest strengths, you do feel a childlike wonder to see all there is to see in each sub-location, with creative concepts to reveal new but familiar locations. As much as I love the use of lore to reveal a deep and rich history of the world you inhabit, I do think there is room to weave the divided maps together. The obvious thing to say would be, oh, it should have just been an open world game, but for the hardware limitations of the Wii, I doubt that was a possibility at the time. Now, I do think the subworlds could have been tied together to feel more like one big map instead of three separate ones. Then there is the sky above. As much as I enjoyed the freedom of flying and the skyloft, it hardly felt like there was anything of substance to stop and explore. There are a couple floating rocks you can find loot and treasure on, but I found myself feeling like I was in an empty fishbowl of missed potential. I think this is one of the byproducts of creating a rich universe that would have been better suited as an open world if only possible at the time, which is I guess where Breath of the Wild comes in today. This version of pre-Hyrule I spent over 40 hours in stimulated my sense of curiosity and wonder while also leaving me wanting more to see, do, and discover. I like the idea of using the right joystick to represent the angle and direction of each slash, and much prefer it over the motion controls. But it's not a perfect setup. Due to the occupancy of the right joystick, for swordplay, you must hold down the L button every time you want to move the camera, which can become tiresome quickly. You can also press ZL to recenter the camera towards the direction you are facing, but I found this to be even more cumbersome over just holding the L button the entire time. It's hard to suggest a perfect solution to this, but I do think it would have made more sense to swap the control schemes, allowing you to control the camera freely and being required to hold the L button when swinging your sword. I think this configuration would be slightly better due to needing to move the camera more than you move your sword. I also found navigating through my tool and item menus to be annoying with the tendency to constantly select the wrong item, but this might be a me issue. And that brings me to another issue I have with this game, and that's the emphasis on precise movements and platforming with less than precise controls. Obviously, skill can overcome much of this complaint, but I found myself often feeling punished for janky controls. Now, the puzzles are where this title shines on a gameplay level, which is good considering this is its primary focus. You get the feeling of constant progression between each puzzle presented, feeling that many of the concepts are compounded forward. This feeling of addition also applies to your array of tools, constantly giving you new ones as well as expanding onto old ones. Eventually you get to the point where you have several tools to get the job done, but there's only one tool that's the best option for your current situation, giving you a real sense of accomplishment. After you make your way through each subsection of puzzles, you are usually met with a boss battle. This is another area of mixed feelings for me. I love the variety of different themes and creative concepts used when fighting each boss, but all are not created equal here. Some of the fights made me think, emphasizing the use of clever techniques, while others felt like a rinse and repeat of a simple but frustrating task. I feel that Skyward Sword has a lot of different aspects of its gameplay, with some of them shining and others falling flat. To wrap things up, this was a difficult review for me to write due to my conflicting feelings about what I feel works and what I feel doesn't work. It's hard to value and weigh my complaints versus praises, but sticking to my rubric, I am giving The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD a 7.5. I think if you are new to Zelda games and are accustomed to modern open-world titles, or if you just don't like very puzzle-heavy games, then this title might be hard for me to recommend. But if you have played most of the other mainline Zelda titles and can't get enough and missed out on this one back on the Wii, then I do think we have a winner here. I enjoyed much of my time playing, but do feel it's important to point out this game's shortcomings. I want to hear from you your thoughts in the comments section if you've played Skyward Sword and how you feel about the game, as well as why you feel the way you do. I'm sure many of you have differing opinions, which is great, but other than that, I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time, see ya!